QB chasing.
G'day, listeners, and welcome back to another very special episode of the Matter Mentality podcast, where we talk all things training, nutrition, and psychology to maximize your performance. Today, we are joined by a very, very special guest, good friend, now colleague from miles away, the marketing director for what is becoming one of the fastest health, I don't even know how to describe it, health optimization clinics and companies in the world, Marek Health. I'm joined by the one and only Lil Smokey. How we doing, brother?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing?
Man, I am fantastic. It's Thursday morning. It's 9 o'clock. The weather's good. It's hot. We're in summer, and you guys are in winter, I believe. Actually, I don't even know if
And
Vegas
it's
has
Wednesday,
winter.
and it's Wednesday evening.
Yeah, yeah. Vegas, I believe, Nevada,
California.
California.
Sacramento,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
I was like, yeah, I know it was on the West Coast. Trying to get used to those temperature changes going back and forth between those places in like one trip for us was crazy. Having the DC weather and then coming back to San Diego, landing our trip in LA, spending some time there, seeing you guys over in Vegas when we went over last time. The temperature differences in your country is astounding.
It's quite vast. It varies dramatically from state to state, and even within states, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, because we were at the CJI. Obviously, we linked up with you guys in
Yep.
Vegas last trip. The CJI that the Marek was a major sponsor for, which is awesome. That was my first experience in Vegas. Happened to just get a cool VIP experience at one of the biggest BJJ tournaments that was going. And yeah, safe to say, I think it was like 45 degrees just walking around in Vegas. And I was like, what? I'm wearing a button up and like jeans. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? I'm changing my shirt.
Yeah, August in Vegas is a little toasty, and then you probably saw some humidity in there in DC for
Yeah,
sure.
that was pretty much what we got. It was pretty gross. Uh,
Yep.
Mate, the exciting part about this conversation is not only is going to be your own story, but I think it's a really exciting conversation about the growth in the industry for Marek Health, going beyond just being for the Gen Pop optimal health direction. I really want to get into, and we'll no doubt get into this over time, but the the direction that Marek has taken, or I guess the expansion that Marek has taken, is entering realms of sport, blood optimization, hormone levels. It's fantastic to see that more people are becoming more health conscious, or like, I guess, more concerned with what their internal is doing, not just their external. I think there's obviously that a large period of time where everyone's just been so concerned with kind of how they're looking, but not how everything is traveling inside. And that's where I think you guys really excel. To get started, give me a bit of a background, or I guess like a role that you play inside Marek in the day to day, because I really want to get to how you got there, and kind of know your story and role inside the company.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks again for having me on, and it's always a pleasure to talk to you. And it was great seeing you in Las Vegas last year or this year, and look forward to seeing you again in person here coming up soon, hopefully. But yeah, my role, I have the opportunity to be the marketing director at Marek Health. I joined the company 3.5 years ago. The company was in its infancy, just wrapping up 6 months, coming off the heels of COVID in
Mhm.
2020, where there was a lot of just changes and shifts in telehealth and the opportunities and availability of online services. And that's
Mhm.
can say probably one of the few things that positive that came out of that time
Yeah.
span, over the years. But that was when Marek Health was really trying to find its footing. And Marek Health is co-founded by Derek, More Plates, More Dates, which I'm sure
Mhm.
your audience is going to be more than familiar with.
Yep.
And he was one of the owners and created the company because there was a need for it. And so
Yep.
he himself was primarily, 4 years ago, an avid lifter, really enjoyed the bodybuilding space,
Mhm.
really enjoyed pushing the limits, testing things out on the
Yep.
PED space. He talks about all this stuff, so I don't want to tell his story, but he knew the importance of taking a deep dive into your health while you're doing
Mhm.
these supplementations and treatments. And so he found a need for it and created Marek Health, and that really kicked things off. And the key focus here at Marek Health, and from the start, is really to empower our clients to be able to take ownership of their health.
Yeah.
You know, we're so often met with pushback from our primary care providers or insurance companies
Hmm.
that they're not there to see us optimal. They're to see us survive.
Yeah.
And I personally experienced, requesting my testosterone being checked and at the age of around 30 and was told no because I had a beard. Like that's the type of stuff we're met over here with in the United States, which is just mind-blowing, right? I just want to see where I'm at. I want to track it. I want to see how I feel. No, I can't do that. It's not possible. You have facial hair. Like that's an adequate enough reason of someone's,
Your engine's
testosterone.
fine. Don't worry about it.
Unbelievable. So and at the time, I just had no clue how messed up that truly is. Like it
Hmm.
really didn't hit me in the moment. But part of that was really just opening the door to what's really needed out there. And so with Marek Health and my role has really been to get the message out there
Hmm.
to men and women, in the United States that we're here for them and that we're here to help them. We're here to allow them to take control of their lives and to feel optimal because that's the
Hmm.
key thing. I want to feel the best I can feel and be. I'm approaching 38. I'm going to be 39, I'm going to be 40. I don't want to look back and go, man, I really miss how I felt when I was
Yeah.
20, when I was 18. Let's make me feel the best I can feel now at the age I'm at and what I'm going through now. And so part of being the marketing director is just having just an absolute amazing marketing team has just been unreal to have to just know and have comfort that my team is out there and has the same mindset to just improve lives around
Hmm.
us and really just to strive to get out there in various spaces, and one of which is the bodybuilding community. And I think that's one that has really been lacking over the
Hmm.
past few decades in terms of health, as
Mm.
we see people passing away over the years for various complications. Some probably genetics, some, maybe self-instilled. It really is hard to say, and we'll never truly know. But I think the bodybuilding community really benefits from a service like Merrick because we're very open-minded. We're very realistic on what
Yes.
people are willing to do, what they want to do. It's their bodies, but we do it with their best interest and in total
Hmm.
legal compliance, which is obviously a huge factor here in most countries, but the United States in particular. And we want to make sure we're here to help you because the bodybuilding community is going to do what the bodybuilding community is going to
Yeah.
do. And we want to make sure that people are doing it in the best possible, with the best possible outcome externally and internally.
I think you really touched on a great point there that I think a lot of people don't understand when it comes to just general practitioner health. And this is never going to be a dig at GPs or your general practitioner or your usual care provider. But a lot of the time, we are going to them from a position of deficiency or deficit, and we're just simply trying to get back to normal. It's almost looked at as a strange idea by GPs to go there and say, "Hey, I actually want to be optimal. I don't want to just be okay. I don't want to just be inside the average ranges." Like we know how skewed those averages can be. Like you look at the general population and population sampling, and it's like, oh, the average of free testers over here, and it might be in 30, it might be 20, whatever it is. And then they're going, yeah, look, you're normal. And it's like, yeah, but at 30, at 28, do I want to just have a test of 20? Do I want to have a free test of, 200 when, let's say 50 years ago, we're looking at those numbers being drastically higher. Like to me, that's where I kind of find the pushback, or I guess the limitation with general care providing, is that it's more from a position of deficiency or deficit than it is a position of optimization. And like you said, I don't want to get to 40 and be like, remember when, or oh, how good was it when? Oh, remember when I was in high school and I could throw that football and I could chase it down and I could run the 100-yard dash. Like to me, it's such a valuable position of life to think that we just get to 32 and we start to experience andropolas and hormone profiles start to decline. And it goes, oh well, with age I'm done, that's it, like life's peaked, it's all downhill from here. You've still got 60 years left of life, and we're looking at 30 to 40 being this declining age and saying, well, that's it, it's all downhill from here. Like I'm not sure how intense that or how accurate that is in the American environment, but in Australia, that's still a line that's very similar to what we experience when even going to our care providers. We have social care, like we have a lot. I would argue we probably have better social services at the average level than you guys, but you have such advanced private care. But even in our system, you go to a general practitioner, that's what you're being met with. When they're not concerned with optimality, they're concerned with, yeah, but you're not going to die, so I guess that's okay.
Yeah, I know here in the States, I mean, ultimately, if you occasionally, very rarely, can get a primary care that might be able to push the needle, maybe fight back with insurance, maybe their practice
Yep.
has a little more flexibility. But I've yet to see it, but I've heard it possible, and that's amazing. But in today's healthcare system, they're just not trained for it.
Hmm.
I feel that way, I should say. I feel they're not trained for that. They're not trained to get people feeling better. If they're not sick, they're there to be if you're sick, if you're
Hmm.
injured, how can we get you back on your toes? How can we have you accept this like new normal of whatever
Yeah.
that might be, whether it's an ailment or age or whatever, whatever it could be. I was put in a position at birth. I was born with a rare birth defect with my bladder outside my body. And since birth, I had been in a position where I should accept being shitty. I
Mhm.
should accept having issues, and dealing with problems. And I have wonderful parents who are very active and very forward pushing and push themselves personally, professionally, and all aspects. And having that and seeing what it is not to accept, accepting age, for
Yeah.
instance, as a reason to get fat or a
Yeah.
reason to be less active. My parents are pushing, they're going to hate this part, but they're pushing near 70. I'm, late 60s, but which is weird to say out loud, to be honest. And they're extremely active, skiing and pickleball, which is a huge thing, obviously, the last four.
That's exploding in
Pickleball, I don't know.
America.
Yeah, pickleball is like the key sport of the last 4 or 5 years, but it's been a good role model of
Hmm.
what it is, and to see it in practice at somewhere like Merrick, or to see even just having a conversation with you and thousands of other people like us that are saying, "Wait a minute, this system that we grew up in, that's not acceptable. Why is it okay that I'm paying for insurance or I'm paying for a service that is subpar?" And it's not giving me a great outcome. It's just
Hmm.
giving me a patch, or it's just telling me, "Hey, this is what it is. Sorry, deal with it." And so it's really great to be part of something like Merrick, where we're really, in the spearhead, just leading the front with what is possible, what's available for our customers and clients.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's so important to understand, even at the general level, like, we'll get into this shortly with the level of bodybuilder that you guys are now reaching, the sports that you're now reaching, and the different endeavors, the different directions, which is fantastic. But just to see the general populace now saying or recognizing that it's not okay to be subpar. It's not, at
Mhm.
least in the health realm, like it's not okay just to exist and coast through pain, ailments, niggles, internal damage, internal problems, internal situations that aren't healthy or optimal. And they're saying, actually, you know what? I don't want this for 40 more years. I don't want this for 50 more years. What can we do now? And I think that's so important at the general level, just to recognize that optimization is not just for elite athletes. In fact, I would usually argue that elite athletes are probably the ones who don't optimize enough. Everyone
Yeah.
looks at them and says, "Oh, this guy is an elite athlete. Is this per?" Yeah, the average. You take their blood work, you take their, you look at their body initially. That's probably pretty banged up from what they've been doing. So at least at the populace level, to see that people are getting more concerned with it, I think is a huge stride forward for longevity.
Yeah, it's a huge culture shift, and I think it's headed very much in the positive direction for sure.
So give us a bit of a background, because obviously I know that you had experiences with Marek before you actually started working with them. What gave you that confidence, or I guess that initial experience that you were like, hey, I need to go to see these guys? Because obviously, it's one thing to have marketing and putting branding out there, but to have lived the experience, and I guess be the not a trial, but you are a product of the thing that you now push, which is
Yep.
very, it's very rare in marketing for, well, it's not rare, but it's very easy in sales to manipulate and lie. But when you're backing and believing in what you're doing and product that you are selling, it makes it a lot easier to sell and obviously buy into. So what was your initial experience that got you into Marek and saying, like, this is for me, I need to be a part of this?
Yeah, absolutely. So, back in 2021 in the spring, I was actually working for someone named Mark Bell,
Yep.
who's known in the powerlifting community, Mark Smelly Bell. And
Smelly.
I was his general manager for his company called Slingshot, which was a device that would assist you with bench press overload and
Yep.
knee sleeves, wrist straps, the whole gambit. It was amazing. And I was with him for a handful of years. And part of my role, I was working with their podcast, the Power Project, as they call it, and I was doing sponsorship acquisitions for their show. So
Mm-hmm.
people that want to partner with them. And one day, Mark came up to me, and I had a slot to fill, and I was actively searching for a telehealth service that could do lab work or hormone
Hmm.
optimization, et cetera. And I'd never heard of Merrick. And Mark said, "Hey, I want you to check out this company, Merrick. I want them to sponsor the show. Like, make it happen. Let's figure it out." And I was like, "Oh, okay, fine. Take a look at it." And got connected with one of the owners and a couple of the team members who I now, get the pleasure of working with to this day or today, and went through about a month of back and forth and created a partnership with them. And during that time, I went through the initial lab process. And
Hmm.
so prior to that, just to go back a little back, I jumped ahead a little bit. I had already done my lab work about an annual basis, and I would
Hmm.
have Stan Efferdine, as most of you guys probably have heard of or know,
Yep.
buddy of mine through Mark, and became close with him, and he partners up with Merrick. He would do a little lab review for me, so I'd go get my labs, and he would just do, like, say, "Hey, like, let's check this out, let's check that out." He would give some suggestions, and being someone that was, not on board for like prescription treatments or, hormones and whatnot, it was really just like dietary and supplements,
Yep.
but in lifestyle, which, as you are well aware, is great, like works amazing and still
Yep.
needs to happen with the hormone side of things. So
Yep.
really good foundation of what my, what should be going on. And so when I went to Merrick, I had one of their, I think it was one of their entry panels at the time, which I think was about 80 markers. And the most I had ever done was like 10 or 15 markers.
Yep.
And so I was A, confused, B,
Yep.
B, just blown away. And then
Yep.
C, I had one of the health coaches do a lab review on with me, and he went over everything and gave me all kinds of recommendations, to address my testosterone, to address my thyroid. My prolactin was through the roof.
Hmm.
It made some suggestions, and some of the things I was like, I was a solid candidate for testosterone replacement therapy at the time, being 34 years old. I had record proof over years working with Stan of it declining from 8, 7, 6, 5, like
Yep.
let's say, 100, almost like sequentially 100 marks drops on my total test. And and of course the side effects to associate with it. But I wasn't prepared for that, and that wasn't something I was interested at the time. And but I had some other adjustments he made recommendations for, one of which was for my prolactin, took some supplementations, made some dietary changes. And then during that time, I had a really much better understanding of Merrick, and I was like, "Oh, it's a pretty cool company." Got them
Hmm.
on board with the podcast, and then professionally, there was just a really good opportunity for me to shift over from Mark and the podcast over to Merrick. And so I talked with Merrick and the ownership, and mapped out a plan of being the marketing director, and showed what I could do through my experience and through my connections over at Mark Bell's. And what I truly had, and looking back, I really didn't have a clue what Merrick truly did.
Yep.
I
Yep.
thought I knew what Merrick did, but I
Yep.
didn't know what Merrick did. So I remember flying into my first day, I flew and met a group of the executive team in Colorado at one of the pharmacies that we were going to be partnering up with, and met with one of our medical providers and our chief tech officer and VP and all that. And we sat down at lunch. Like, we literally just, like, I got off the plane, they started to come off the plane, like we met at, rental car, like I took a job, haven't met anybody in person. Like, this is also like my first remote job application process thing. I'm used to going into an office, wearing a
Yep.
suit, shaking hands, sitting
Post-COVID
across.
life.
Yeah, yeah, just truly was my first experience with that. And we ended up connecting, and we started talking about Merrick, and I'm just listening to them talk, and I'm, hearing the medical provider talk with one of the owners. And I was like, oh, okay, this is a little bit more than I thought, in a positive way, like, oh, we do that. Okay, okay, we do that. That's awesome. We serve that purpose. Okay, great. The next day, we went to one of our pharmacies, and that's when my mind was blown, because I truly didn't, my mindset of testosterone replacement therapy, and I'm going to choose that one because it's a simple one and
Hmm.
most of us are aware of it, is my buddy at the gym, maybe, trying to give me 250, 500 milligrams of
Yeah.
testosterone. And it's a needle this big, and
Yep.
I'm jabbing into my butt cheek, and no clue. Like, that was my perception
Yep.
of TRT. And it's made in a bathtub and toilet or whatever. So that was my understanding of it. And so to walk a, FDA, DEA regulated pharmacy, like suit in, suit out, air pressure, like the whole gambit. And I was looking around, I was like, oh, okay, this is a lot
This is
more than what
legit.
this is legit. Yeah, this is a lot more than what I thought. And so I did a follow-up kind of review with the medical provider, and I decided to jump on testosterone cream to start. Still apprehensive in needles because in my head it was going to hurt, and
Yep.
they were 18 gauge in my head, right? They were just
A
ginormous,
shovel going into you.
like a harpoon. Yeah. So I started off with cream, and I started to instantly feel the benefits when I started the cream, and that's was kind of the beginning where I just truly had a much better understanding of the value and what we could do based off what I was starting to experience as a man in my mid 30s,
Hmm.
making a big life decision, career change for me and my family, taking a job remotely, wanting to feel better, move better, act better, be more confident. All these things kind of started to shift in parallel when I joined Merrick. And so that was kind of my big eye-opening experience. And then it's just been nonstop education
Hmm.
ever since then. We have just some of the highest level individuals, some of the smartest people I've ever met are at Merrick, and they are just constantly looking for more information
Hmm.
or data and making adjustments to thoughts that are decades or even months old of what we think is what. And it's just been an eye-opening experience. And then to see the testimonials, the transformations, the day in and day out, just constant changes of lives that are being impacted and the families of the lives that are being
Yeah.
impacted, just insane. And so that's just been it's been a 3.5, year eye-opening experience, basically, sum it up.
Yeah, so much to touch on there that I think is just a positive reflection of what America is doing. I mean, just you as a living example, like the excitement you have to talk about the brand that you represent in the mission statement and the values that they clearly have as a company. It's not all that often you get people in the executive positions and the directing positions that they obviously have to believe in they have to sell the product. They have to, there's a buy-in or a financial investment, but to have the excitement and the passion about what the product is and what the direction of the company is and the life that is changing, like you couldn't have imagined that, moving from Smelly's position to Marek, that even in the director of marketing position, that you are going to be the reason that tens of thousands of people become affected by the implication of HRT, TRT. Like it's just to me, it's just like the two don't really make sense, but yet when you get into it, you hear about it, like it makes sense because of
Mhm.
you or because of the team that you have and the way that you guys are directing the ship in getting reach out there and doing those things. You're able to in improve and enhance the reach of Merrick as a company, which as a proxy is going to impact tens of thousands of people that are getting their blood work done or improving their hormone levels or improving their blood panels, are getting their health in check to live a longer life. Like that as an association is just a fulfilling mission for Merrick and yourself. I can only imagine.
No, you really hit the nail on the head there. And it is 100% a team effort. I mean, I am beyond blessed to have started early on in the beginning. Some of my team members are even started before me, literally like day one, 6 months. And it's been an honor to be able to build out a team, have people work in a newer, better, more exciting positions, to see personal growth. But I haven't worked for 3.5 years. Like it is really just a part of my life. It is just a
Mm-hmm.
part of what I enjoy to do. And sure, are there work tasks by all means, like yes. But however, the space that I'm in, the lives that our team is impacting, it just changes anything. I could not fathom going to like a 9 to 5
Yeah.
job. It doesn't even it doesn't compute. But the team's ability to have a culture where
Mm-hmm.
this is how we speak on a daily basis, whether
Yep.
we're coming up with a transformation challenge or a Black Friday promotion, or
Mm-hmm.
how can we best impact, or provide a better client experience throughout the process, whether it's acquiring a client or if it's having them go through, after being with us a year, is there things that we can do to make their time with us more enjoyable? It is truly a passion, and I feel confident saying that the other 100 team members that Merrick has, we are all on the same page and we all are very much in the same mission.
Which is very rare in any company setting. Like, yes, you want your staff to believe and buy in, but some people will just come to work for a pay packet. Some people will just come to work for their job and, to work 5 days a week and enjoy the weekend. But to have a team that is so passionate about health, it's why, for me, looking at companies that we support or endorse or push, yeah, we don't have a monster reach here that's going to get Merrick tens of thousands of people. But just to simply say, like, if you are in America, to go to a company like that, there are very few people that are that honestly passionate about taking care of your health. There's a
Mhm.
lot of coaches that coach first, client second. There are a lot of people that are like, I want to make sure I get paid for my job and then I'll take care of you. Yes,
Yeah.
Marek, obviously it's a company that you guys need to make money. You need to get paid for what you do. But at the same time, it's, I've had Jariah on, I've had Morso on. I've spoken to so many of you guys at the Coach Catalyst Summit. I've spoken to so many guys, even when we went to the CJI. The passion and direction that you guys have from the coaching team to the lifestyle team to the blood work team, the guys that are going out on the podcast and the content creation, everyone from the top down is buying into this belief of what the company is, which is overall to improve people's health and optimize their life, which, how can you not buy into that mission statement?
Yeah. And it's pretty amazing, like looking back right now, just thinking of my own, six person marketing team, every single one of them trains. Like to
Yeah.
some degree, whether they're doing bodybuilding, powerlifting, yoga, Pilates, like
And move.
every single one of them, and that's just a small niche. And it's the same with all Jiraiya and Michael. It's the same thing. Like they're, avid powerlifter, avid obviously bodybuilder. It really is just a lifestyle. So if I'm not having a conversation with you about this, I'm having a conversation with my team. And if I'm not doing that, I'm at the gym having a conversation.
Yeah,
And if I'm not that, I'm at a family dinner having this conversation.
yeah.
So it really is something that we're talking about all the time. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a fantastic position to be in. I mean, the other exciting part too is I think what people don't realize as a byproduct, and you obviously stand as a testament to this. And I'd love to hear a little bit more about it. Is people look at TRT, HRT as like, what's the aesthetic response that's going to occur? Am I going to get a six pack, or do I look more jacked, or fill out my t-shirt? Everyone thinks like TRT, steroids, testosterone. I'm going to be the jack guy in the gym. But what is most, I think, exciting to me is when I see, because I've dealt with so many blokes now here in Australia that low testosterone, former veterans, or sorry, current veterans, former service members, things like that, middle-aged guys that have finished in job sites, trade careers, that health was never a concern. But what I find is when we start to look at, even if it's just the lifestyle interventions before HRT, before TRT, if it's just nutrition interventions, is the confidence that they start to build, the self-belief that comes with it, the goal orientation, the direction forward, the purpose in life. Like they suddenly have a new vigor that they want to attack. They want to take on life rather than be reactive to life, or at least let life dictate the direction for them. And I think that's one of the most positive aspects that comes out of TRT, HRT, health optimization, is that there is a almost as a byproduct proxy to the decision to, like, guess this is what I'm going to focus on. Life tends to get better. And yes, we know in the research, testosterone generally plays a really positive role in the, especially androgenically in males, the goal orientation, the direction forward, moving towards things, being not combative but competitive in life, wanting to be, striving is a big part of what testosterone does. But to see it in people in the way their life changes, like that in of itself, I'm sure you have like a personal, just in your growth of Merrick, you can see that that's what's happened. But I'd love to hear a before and after, I guess, where that's sort of applied to you, because I can see it in your voice. I can hear it in the way you speak about it, that it was more than just I'm going to take some steroids. It was, this was me beforehand, and this is where life is heading. And by no means am I saying you had a poor life before you started, but you can hear the change in the perception of life, the direction of life, the excitement, the energy to wake up in the morning. Like it goes from I've got to get out of bed to what the fuck's on today.
Yeah. No, yeah, you hit it pretty good. The confidence factor, the desire to do better, has definitely improved. I will say honestly, prior to testosterone replacement therapy, I feel like I was a pretty driven person.
Mm-hmm.
Even going back to my first job, I was I think 12 or 13 years old. I worked at a snowboard shop. Then I, did mobile car detailing when I was 16. And then I just always had a job, and it was, of course, in the beginning, it's just to get money. It wasn't like,
Yeah,
hey, I want
yeah.
to learn and build experience. It was just, I want to get paid. What can I do to make some money
Yeah.
so I can buy some cool stuff? But that obviously evolved over the years. So I feel like I went from a pretty driven person. But there was a time, probably I would say that the year or two prior to TRT, I would probably say in some levels I was a little stagnant. So I would say probably above average of, your average Joe
Yep.
of desire to move and grow, but not how I was in the previous years. And so could that be testosterone related? Maybe. Could it be a bazillion other factors? Yes, very possibly. So I can say though that being on testosterone, it makes, I believe, Andrew Huberman made this phrase of like, it makes effort feel good.
Hmm.
Like it has this feeling of like, yeah, I just did something really cool. And it doesn't have to always be in the gym. It's not always
Yeah.
a bicep curl reference of a
Yeah.
pump or anything, right? It's like, hey, I just accomplished this really cool thing with my wife, or I got through something with work or whatever it may be. And I think that's been a really positive impact. I will say though, I do have friends where I have seen a legitimate 180
Hmm.
from no drive,
Hmm.
overweight, oh, I'm doing my best mentality to not skipping the gym, eating better. Oh, my best really wasn't my best.
Yes.
Fixing their priorities, changing their attitude. I have a friend now, who I've known for about 10 or 12 years that has been on TRT for about 3 or 4 months. And I'm not exaggerating, like a complete 180. He's down like 30 pounds, but his
Amazing.
mentality has been probably the biggest change. And
Yes.
so I call this like the new to his face, obviously, and behind his back. I'll say this like the new version of him. I'm like, hey, be
Yep.
the new Drew. Like, don't be the old Drew, be the new Drew.
Yep.
Be this guy, because whatever you just did, like that's the thing to do. And so it's really cool to see, with people, and that's just one example of thousands and thousands that you see it too. We all see it, which is great. The thing is though that now with Merrick or being in the space, you kind of have an idea of the why. You
Yes.
might you might work in an office of 50 people and you might have it happen, but you might not correlate any reasoning behind it. You
Yep.
don't know why Joe Schmo that you've worked with for 5 years has a shift. It doesn't change the reasoning. It's exciting, but it might say, oh, I didn't know you could do that. I didn't know testosterone replacement therapy or optimizing your health was even an option, right? Because I truly didn't prior to Merrick.
Yep.
And then that can get me, or if I was his coworker, that could get me excited, that could get me to try it out. And then it just kind of trickles down to then now our whole community is optimizing. And again, optimization is a very broad spectrum. It can be
Yes.
supplementation, lifestyle, shoot, getting more sleep, eating better. Like that, whether you're on TRT or not, like that alone, that is needed
Yeah.
regardless.
I
So
think
I think that's a huge misconception that people say. And to kind of circle back to your on the physical side, I think of people, or I should say this, I thought I was going to be a monster on 150 milligrams of
gonna be
testosterone.
comparing with Stan the next day, 1 week of
I
TRT, and I'm Stan Efferding.
Yeah, I said I train hard. I know I can lift, I can bench, over 400. Like I'm gonna be a beast. And then you're like, okay, I feel better. I do feel better. My pumps are better. I
Hmm.
am a little bit more motivated, but like, I don't have veins on my quads yet. Like I don't know what's going on here. And so I would say my personal expectation of the physical, the aesthetic part was way higher than it should have been. But I have seen over the past 3 years now, it just has accumulated. Like every
Yeah.
6 months, a little bit more muscle,
Hmm.
a little less fat, a little stronger. It just takes a lot of time and consistency, just as it did naturally. It does go a little bit faster though, I will
Yeah.
say.
And that leads to a really good question. I think that we kind of had a mapped out that I really want to touch on because I want to break down those stigmas to a degree. Before we get into, I guess, taking over the bodybuilding space, that next direction of the marketing and really trying to impact there is what are you seeing? Because obviously you're going to face it at the marketing level, right? You guys have to identify the client pain points, and you need to like isolate who your avatars are that you're really serving and trying to target with the right language, the right terminology. What is the pain you're suffering every day that Merrick can remove or at least improve? What are you guys seeing as the stigmas, the mythology, the I guess taboos that people are coming to you with before they even get to the clinic assessments, before they even get to the blood panels. Like there's obviously those hurdles you guys have to, like, how do we jump over this to get that person to remove that frame of mind so they actually do get the help? What are you seeing, I guess, as the dominant stigmas that we as coaches or educators can remove or discuss more to get away from the general population? But, not everyone's going to come to a coach. So I guess you guys that are facing it to someone who just wants to show up and have their bloods done, what are they coming to you with as kind of like those, oh, I don't want that in case X happens, or, my friend said my penis, gets smaller, those sort of things.
Yeah. Yeah, it really varies. We have a really wide spectrum of both men and women. Our female population is nearly 20% now, and it's just been
Oh,
growing
wow.
over and over. And oftentimes it's the significant other
Yes.
of the male, right? They
We get the
start to see
same thing.
their husband get better, and it's like,
Yep.
oh, what are you doing? Okay, I should check that out. But yeah, some of the stigmas I would say is yeah, injection. There's always the fear of what that is, that it's going to be painful or that it's, just not for them. And as someone who is, I not even exactly, I'm terrified of needles, having from birth been jabbed and poked and
Mm-hmm.
gone through surgeries. I hate needles, and that was honestly my number one reason why I didn't want to do injectable to start. Um, but I cannot stress enough how now it does not hurt and how it there's ways to get around it. It's a non-issue for sure. It's not even a consideration nowadays. Some of the other things are sure there's testicular shrinkage that some men are concerned with, and most are not. But for whatever reason, some men find that a concerning issue. Personally, not a worry of mine that
I
it
don't think your
happens.
girlfriend's going to be concerned with your ball size.
Correct. Like it's just not a concern. The other thing is having to navigate your estrogen. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
people are fearful that they're gonna have to, or maybe let me say this: the stigma is you're gonna be on testosterone, and then you're gonna have to also take
Yeah.
an estrogen blocker of some kind, and then you're also gonna have to take HCG. You're
Yep.
gonna take what you're very familiar with, right? Is just like a cookie cutter protocol.
Yep.
You hear of places in the space where you and I you go to a clinic or a telehealth service. You clearly are more jacked and got different goals and all these things, and we're different people, we're different ages, but we might both walk away with the exact same
Yep.
plan and it doesn't make sense. And so I think people are often surprised that, it's not, hey, if you take this one thing, you got to take these five other things with it
Yep.
because it's so individual on their concerns. And then lab work obviously is one of the biggest drivers, right? You have what does the biomarker say, and you have to say how do you feel? What is the
Yep.
symptom? What is, do you feel fine? You feel fine, then there's really no concern if the biomarker isn't is a concern. But that would be one of the stigmas. Another stigma or another thing that does happen is, and it's mainly in the younger community, which is not really our, clientele per se, right? A lot of our clients are mainly in their 30s, 40s, and 50s.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but with the gray area market with peptides, there's a lot of people that think they can just come in and they're going to just order prescription BPC or TD or whatever it might be.
MK67, please. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's that, and there are gray markets for it. There are spaces that offer that illegally, but with Merrick we are through DEA approved, FDA approved pharmacies, compounded, and it's not a concern, and so I think one of the things is just making sure one of the thoughts of our clients is making sure they're aware that you're not coming here for the treatment, you're coming here for the optimization, and that
Mm-hmm.
could be a laundry list of things that we're going to coach you through. And I think they're really coming here for coaching. And so whether that's coaching from the health coach, coaching from the medical provider, and the tools are the supplementation and the
Yes.
prescription treatment options. And I think once you get the client on board with that, for those few people that do come through the door thinking they're just going to get testosterone, once they wrap their head around that and we explain that to them, then that kind of eliminates any concern and they can see the bigger picture, which
Yes.
is total life change.
Yeah, one of the philosophies that I kind of approach with anyone that does come through, whether it be working with TRT or clinics, health providers, or whether it be someone who's, I want to get towards bodybuilding stage and the enhanced route, is I have this phrase or I guess philosophy that I use, which is you have to earn your pharmacology, you have to earn your hormone treatment, you have to earn the right to use it, because to me, it's such a band-aid cop out to just go straight from X to Y. and think that you're just going to go from never training, never being health conscious, never being lifestyle conscious, eating like shit, living like shit, no goals, no purpose or direction, and then going, oh, well, my numbers are low, therefore injections and testosterone. I'm going to be jacked and, change my life. And the funny part is the perception shift that we get is they start to really take that ownership and accountability and realize that a lot of these numbers, it's not gland problems, it's not enzymatic problems, it's not my adrenals aren't doing their job, my testosterone, my HPG axis is not actually doing what it's supposed to do. It's that you live a shit life, and there is no drive in you, which is like it's creating a negative feedback loop. Instead of you thinking, oh, I'm low in testosterone, therefore I don't want to do anything, it's you're not doing anything, therefore you're low in testosterone. You're not taking care of yourself, living a full life, trying to do things, being active, etc., eating right. And so one of the things that we put our guys through, which, even speaking to Jiraiya, speaking to more so, I know they have a very similar approach, which is obviously reflective of Marek, is that you're not just coming in to get needles. You're not just coming in to get stabbed and get some HRT and all of a sudden, you're going to be 10 foot tall and bulletproof. It's, if we're looking at this and you're telling me that you're not even sleeping 7 hours, you're not consuming antioxidants and vitamins and minerals, you're not having diversities of protein sources, you're not active more than 30 minutes a week, you're not getting straight to TRT, you're getting optimized in how we can naturally get you to that level before we go, okay, if you truly want to be a bodybuilder, if you truly want to maximize your health, let's earn it first through the natural implementations, and then we'll see if that corrects the course. If we start to see, like, my logic is if you don't want to take this for, you don't want to take or depend on something for life that you don't have to take. If you can be the reason naturally that it corrects itself, why would you want to be injected and take drugs and take things that are exogenously stressful on the body? Why would you want to do that if you can be naturally healthier? And that's where I kind of like, I try to implement that philosophy of you have to earn the right to. If I can see that you've done everything right and things still aren't working, the things still aren't, we're going to go back and get your blood work reassessed. I'm going to get you back to that HRT clinic. I'm going to get you back to go see Marek. And then you talk about how you get that prescription. But it's not, oh, I approach this coach or I approach this health provider and I'm getting drugs. Whereas I think that's something that people tend to think is like, that's the answer.
Yeah. Yeah. It can be a little premature to just jump into that route most of the time. So yeah, I would agree with you. Yeah. What can you do in your lifestyle to make adjustments first? And it's also like, I don't have kids, but I'm familiar with them, right? We were with them at one point. I was a kid, but it's like, hey, I promise to take care of the dog. If you get me a dog, I'll take care of it. I'll do poop patrol. I'll
Yep.
wash it. I'll walk it. I'll do this. But it's like, well, you're not taking care of your goldfish,
Yep.
to start. You're not washing the tank. You're not feeding it
Yeah.
properly. Like, what are you doing here to show me that you're capable of handling or addressing or,
Yes.
living to a certain level that it would require to getting a dog? And I think that translates well to TRT or any other form of
It's a
I mean,
responsibility.
like I don't have a problem with injections, but like I don't want to do it. Like I
Yeah,
don't like
exactly.
it's not like if you said, "Hey, do you want to inject, saline into your arm 3 days a week just to feel a
Yeah.
needle?" Like, no, of course not. Like
No.
there has to be
Yeah.
a reason for it. And so if you can avoid that reason with, again, over-the-counter supplementation or just putting X food down and eating Y, that's a pretty good step to avoiding something that's going to be potentially annoying, for you.
100%. I completely agree. And I think that's, truly reflective of the values that Marek has as a service for health, which I think is second to none and needs to be appreciated, not just in sport, but in just general life by people, which is a great segue to what I want to get into now, which is the expansion of Marek and the role you've played in there. The biggest congratulations that I think people don't really appreciate or don't understand is the shift, the impact that Marek is having in the bodybuilding realm. Because I know it's a very taboo topic, it's a very taboo subject. Not everyone understands bodybuilding truly. I believe they think they just see guys with big muscles and they take drugs and that's it. They're cheating for some reason, even though everyone's doing it.
Right.
And so, like, the health concern part is like, oh well, they're making their own decisions. But athletes are going to be athletes. They're going to do what athletes do. To have the impact where we can change the perception, the language, and the thought process around health and the longevity of our athletes, I think is still important. And I think it's a key approach that we take into our bodybuilders. As I already said, you have to earn the right to first. For you guys, for anyone that isn't a huge bodybuilding fan, Samson Duata just won Mr. Olympia this year, 2024 champion. He is an avid supporter, affiliate, part of the Fuad hostile team, huge athlete for them, has represented them very, very well, in my opinion, and is a huge representative of Marek Health. And I think that is a huge success for you guys, to not only have him up that higher stage, but represent Merrick. We're now getting a guy on stage who is the embodiment of let's take care of our health as well. And I think that's a huge. I'd love if you can get into it. I don't know if there's any issues there around getting into it, but I would love to hear how that stepping stone into the Fuad team kind of happened, because we know that the Fuad's channel, Fuad's page, the podcast is one of the biggest leading influences in the bodybuilding space. A lot of people are watching for Sam Sulik, they're watching for Samson, they're watching for Fuad and the guys and Paul on the podcast. And so to hear the Marek name, to hear the Marek content in there is making a big difference.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm remembering this story correctly. So I'll say it to the best of how I recall. But one of the blessings that I had coming from Mark Bell is the opportunity to meet people.
Yeah.
Mark at the time had, or still does, but at the time we were doing in-person podcasts, like only exclusively, even when Zooms were still happening. This is all pre-COVID.
Yep.
We were just like, no, like in person or pass, in person or
Yeah.
pass. And I want to say in 2019, we had 48 in-person podcasts that year, just week after week after week
Yeah.
after
Wow.
week. And it wasn't even just podcasts, it was like podcasts, film,
Yep.
content creation, like it was the whole gambit. So I had multiple years of that, and I had multiple years of just developing an amazing connection and relationships. And one of the people that I did not have the opportunity to meet in person was Fuad. And I had his number. I believe I don't even think they got on the podcast. They may have done a remote podcast at the time. It's some years back. And when I joined Merrick, part of my job and duties was to expand our marketing, obviously. And,
Mm-hmm.
and part of that was affiliate and get connections, brought on Stan, sponsor Mark Bell's Power Project, and just started, leveraging partnerships and relationships that I had. And so I hit up Fuad and just said, hey, it's been a while. We never even met. Uh, I'm a fan. I personally am and was a fan of it. Like I watched all of his content. To
Yep.
this day, every week I'll be eating lunch and I just eat in front of my computer, right? Just like we
It's
all
such a
do.
bodybuilding way now.
And I just throw on one of his like day of eating videos that I've seen 1,000 times.
The
Like and it's
20,000 food calorie, 20,000
it's
calorie
so
challenge.
stupid. It's like,
Yeah.
how do you cook chicken breasts? It's like, oh, I'm eating chicken breasts. Like, let
Yeah.
me watch this video over and over.
Oh, this guy's me.
Yeah, but I love it, and I still I genuinely really enjoy it, and I watch it to this day. So, I connected with him and talked to him about Merrick and put him, got him labs, and I think that's what really catches a lot of people, especially this is 3.5 years ago, or
Mm-hmm.
about 3 years ago. I think when people think about lab work, they think about 10, 20 lab
Mm-hmm.
markers, T3, maybe T4, free total tests,
Mm-hmm.
estradiol, maybe a couple extra markers if you're lucky. And so when we put people through our minimum panel, which is 84 lab markers, or we go with our middle panel, which is like 104, we even now have a larger one that's like significantly larger, but they're more extensive testing. They truly understand what we're talking about. And
Yep.
so and from Fuad's standpoint, being someone and he openly talks about, having some kidney problems and
Mm-hmm.
wanting to stem cells and really address it and blood pressure issues, it really explained, he really took pride in it. And it's like, well, I want to help the up and coming generation
Yes.
bodybuilders, as he does selfishly with everything. The guy lives and breathes bodybuilding. It's
Yes.
it's insane after all these years. And so he saw the opportunity as did I. And so that really kind of started it all in the bodybuilding space. And that's since transformed with people that he's connected me with and really just trying to enhance the lives of the community. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
look, you guys are doing what you're doing. I love lifting. You love lifting. There's a bazillion variations of it for whether you're competing or not competing,
Mm-hmm.
amateur level, open, classic, etc. And there's good ways to do things and there's bad
Yes.
ways to do things and there's the in between. And so although Merrick cannot prescribe bodybuilding levels of testosterone, we can provide ancillaries, we can provide tips, tricks, Maybe
Yes.
it's changing up frequency of things, maybe it's dietary changes to counteract some levels that are under the hood, as that's a great term. I love that one, under the hood for people. It feels like a machine, right? It feels like a car, but just because you're aesthetically look great for a bodybuilder, usually like the better you look inside
Yep.
is not quite the best. So, now that we have that data and we can pull it and analyze it, we can show people like, hey, these are some things you can make adjustments to. We're fully aware of what you're doing and we're here to help you, but let's put our best foot forward and do this right.
Yeah, I think that's a really powerful point for the bodybuilding community and athletes to understand, is that just because you look good on the outside doesn't mean everything's functioning well on the inside. And once you
Yeah.
start dabbling in these exogenous pathways, you need to be constantly monitoring things that are happening and what's going on. And I think that's again a great part of Fuad is, like, he's openly discussed his health concerns for the industry, the losses of people around him. Not to say those things are correlated, but he's lost people that were very close to him, even parts of the podcast team and things like that. And I think that's really reflected his concern for not only his health, but the industry, the competitors, the athletes. Like, he really promotes that. And to see, obviously, his support behind Samson, again, I'm not sure the relationship, how it happened, but obviously getting Samson to you guys. And obviously he was such a big push in having Samson beat his absolute best. It's reflective that his trust in you guys and what you did was so important that he said, our star athlete, if you will, for a lack of a better term, and I've only seen this from the outside in on what I've watched, but Fuad definitely has a father-son mentor figure relationship with Samson. He takes a lot of pride in what he does and his success, and helping him get there. So for him to trust you guys enough to say, hey, this is my guy and I want you guys to take care of him because he's on that pathway to being the best, and I want to make sure that he's getting the best. It shows Fuad's concern for the health of the bodybuilding industry, that the future Mr. Olympian, the guy that he believes will be Mr. Olympia, is being pushed towards taking care of himself for the long haul. And then obviously to trust you guys to provide that. That's got to be
Yeah.
something that, lands pretty well with the entire team, that the best are seeking you guys out to say, this is who I want to take care of my best.
Yeah, no, I remember that day. It was a Sunday, and I believe it was like one of his Detroit competitions he had earlier in the year, middle of the year. And Fuad reached out and was like, "Hey, I'm with Samson. He's here for like 30 more hours. Can we get him lab work and then obviously discuss partnership opportunities?" And so again, huge team effort. Team jumped up. It's Sunday. People are calling, getting things. Lab recs are moving. We're getting everything dialed in for Tim to get before he literally hops on a plane. Like his last thing before he gets on the plane was to stop and get labs drawn. But even with him being in the UK, when he comes here, he can get labs drawn. And that's same
Yeah.
with you. Like when you go to the US, you can get labs drawn through Merrick. And even if bodybuilders are not going through our what we call it as our guided optimization service, that is our white glove hand, walk you through the process, health coach, medical provider service, we still offer lab work. So,
Yes.
there's really no reason you can't get your labs checked, whether it's you look at them, whether you have to bro science a little bit, but
Mm-hmm.
you're obviously not going to get the same care and assessment as
Yeah.
you would with our guide optimization, but maybe you get a $50 panel that gives you some insight. And if there's a red
Mm-hmm.
flag, then you go, okay, I need to figure a way to, if you're strapped for money or whatever it is, I need to prioritize this
Yes.
to make this happen. And so that we've been leaning more into the bodybuilding space and just pushing lab work. So
Yep.
even if you don't want to come for ancillaries and some oversight, there's really no reason you don't have lab work, and you can spend as little as $35 on our website for lab work and get a couple of markers. And it doesn't always have to be testosterone levels, guys. Like there's
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
like let's check some kidney function and some
Yeah. What's that
some
GGT doing?
yeah, let's check your livers and go from there. So,
Yeah, I think just even on that, one of the big beliefs I have is, if you can afford the depth of cycles that the upper levels of amateurs, the lower levels of amateurs can afford, that you focus on, if you're not putting that same level of care or focus financially into blood work,
mhm.
then to me your priorities are skewed. Risking all of that health priority for what could be one season, and not being concerned with where your health is going and what's happening alongside that, I think is a very, very poor perception of the game to have. I don't care. I've had athletes that they might only want to do one season. They might want to do, they want to go into this as a career. They want to push the envelope. They want to see how far they can take it, or they've done one season, say, it's not for me. No matter what along that journey, I want to make sure that their health is still a concern and a priority. We have in our coaching service what we call the reverse out phase. I don't let a client go. Ideally, I inform them that there is a 4 to 8 week post-show phase that you stay with me. I will not let you go before that. It's up to you, obviously, if you do the work. And then obviously, if you choose not to, I'm going to wipe my hands of the whole situation. But to know that we are monitoring, consciously working on and taking care of that post-show, that where the markers are lowest and most unhealthy, we're reviewing that. We're getting the actions in place to correct that. We're getting energy back up. We're getting nutrients back in. We're getting food diversity. Blood panels are taken because that's so important. And I think, that's just something that people need to really comprehend, is that even as bodybuilders, you need to be budgeting for the fact that these are going to be part of your life. If you can perceive in the future that that's going to be part of your budget to take XYZ supplements and drugs, then how is it not in your right mind that the budget also needs to consider, whether it be Marek, whether it be, we've got some companies over here that are just they do private screen, they do any health coaching. They just simply do private screening. You can pay for whatever panels you want. I have specific ones that I get my guys to get. Again, a lot more than the general GP. Like the amount of GPs that I've fought to try and just get estradiol and tea and free tea on a panel. And I'm like, just pay the 250, Monopoly dollars to you guys. Just pay that, and let's just get a full look at what's happening. Doing that, quarterly, at least quarterly, if you're going to be someone who runs a competitive physique, who is enhanced. Even my natural guys, I want to look at what their post-comp levels are, because we know how bad it damages testosterone, sex profiles for the natural athletes that are, physique competitors. So, I think it's such an important concept that people fail to understand. If you can budget to have XYZ cycle, if you can budget to be a competitive athlete, and you're not budgeting to include blood work and paneling in that, I think there's some skewed perceptions that you have.
Yeah, well said. With some of your clients over the years, is there a pretty significant valley of health from natural to enhanced bodybuilders post-show? Have you seen any natural bodybuilders that have worse labs
Oh
even than
yeah.
enhanced ones?
I think because, and this is where people get the misconception, like there's often the for lack of better words, the chip on the shoulder that I find from some natural bodybuilders and athletes is that we're healthier because we don't do XYZ. But where they misunderstand is that the enhanced athlete has those exogenous supplements and hormones to actually maintain or offset some of the problems. Not all of them by any means. Like, we're not saying that they're fixing things, but you can kind of counteract the energy deficiencies and the nutrient deficiencies because you have those supplements available or those exogenous hormones available to put in. The natural athlete, the system is very responsive to being low in energy. So you're getting guys that have a very poor health profile post-comp because they put their body through hell. And they don't realize, they think it's like, oh, we're healthier because we're not taking. Like, that's fine, but you can still have low testosterone levels, low sex profiles. Your thyroid is completely shut down. All these things that then have downstream effects that, interestingly, they don't understand, which is why I still get my natural athletes, male and female, especially females with anoremia post-comp, that aren't taking. I need to see where these things are, whether it be that you go through me to get that advice or you go through someone else. I don't care, but we need to see where that is, because those numbers do skew very heavily after what is a 30-week phase of basically starving your body of food and nutrients and driving training intensity just as hard as enhanced guys.
Yeah. No, I can imagine. I would fathom. I think that I've heard very similar things that what you just said, where the natural athlete, their body is just even more depleted and just worse shape because they don't have that.
Well, even during a season, right? Like the natural guys don't have the available tools to kind of help get to that next level of condition, to try and get to that, to maintain that muscle size. So you're going to have numbers that are quite skewed, muscle atrophy, protein breakdown, these things, the body is just breaking down. That's what it's essentially doing. And we're trying to offset that as much as possible, but you will have to go to deeper places than the enhanced guys might have to, because you don't have the other lipolytics and the growth hormones and things like that will help get to that stage condition. So you're going to go through more hell than they probably will to get to a similar condition, because you just don't have those modalities. So it's no surprise then you look at the blood panels and you see you're actually pretty screwed right now. It's not a healthy state to be in. You look fantastic and almost like a chiseled marble piece, but your body internally does not like it.
Yeah.
And we have to be aware of that. And that's, again, getting those natural guys to still get blood work is so important.
Yeah. I imagine some pushback on that one.
Oh yeah. The again, that misconception in the industry that again, even you guys are pushing, but we try and push, is that just because you're natural doesn't mean you can't optimize things, doesn't mean you can't review things, doesn't mean that it's cheaper or it's healthier or it's safer. Like, there's still a lot of risk involved with doing an extreme anything. And even natural bodybuilding is extreme. One of the other amazing acquisitions, I would call it, or connections that you guys have built that I think is a fantastic reach, and I think very much aligned with the type of people that he speaks with, is you guys got involved with Chris Williamson. I believe you guys are still associated with Chris, and obviously the Modern Wisdom podcast, but I think that was a fantastic connection set up. I know Stan's been on there and talked to Chris as well, and obviously about Bloodworks. I believe Derek has been on there to talk about Bloodworks. I mean, I've seen Derek be on Joe Rogan now, and he was on Jordan Peterson's podcast. Like, that level now, again, we're seeing health concern reach different demographics outside of athletes, bodybuilders, powerlifters. Like, this is going to what is the average person who's trying to understand how to improve their life, or just hear good conversation. And you're now hearing from Dr. Jordan Peterson, Joe Rogan, and the like, and Chris Williamson, that the Merrick team is a part of it. Like, that's huge.
Yeah. No, it's pretty great. Partnering with we did over a year with Chris Williamson, just sunsetted recently. But the year with him was fantastic. I mean, his reach, his messaging, his focus on masculinity and just men being men, and just focused on in self-improvement is just great to hear. And so being able to partner with that, have him share his story, his experience with utilizing Merrick and our services through his optimization options was been great. And then same with Peterson. Yeah, to your point, Derek was on his podcast, and Peterson opened up organically about his use of Marek Health and our services. And it's really just great to be a part of all that. And to circle back, yeah, Derek was on Rogan for the fourth time last week. Yeah, so he's been 4 times in a row every December for 4 years. It's kind of his locked in slot. Hopefully it keeps that way. But it's great to hear, Rogan, although we're not partnered directly with Rogan at all or anything like that, but Rogan is outspoken about testosterone replacement therapy and lab work and just optimization. I mean, the guy's a tank. I mean, this guy does these insane kettlebell workouts and trains his ass off and, jujitsu and whatnot. So it's really cool to see. Again, part of that conversation we had earlier, just the culture, the community where it's a normal thought. I would never thought 10 years ago or even 5 years ago, the term testosterone replacement therapy or any form of hormone replacement therapy. When I think of hormones, I think of women, right? I think of birth control.
Yeah.
I think, menopausal, premenopausal. I don't think of anything on the male side. And so to see that shift happen more and more, in addition to more and more and better data showing for women
Yes.
on what can be done and how things can be done differently on how they've been treated on their options over the past 5 decades is come a long way. And it's just great that we're all in this community, this circle together, you in Australia, me in California. Like, we're still having the same conversation. We're still dealing with the same things, and we're still in the same groups of people that we're just trying to expand. So it's just really cool to see.
Yeah, it's a very positive trend, I guess, for people to start taking that ownership of their health, and moving towards that positive direction, not just being reactive, not just being dictated to, not just being limited by. They're actually saying, I want to control this and go forward, which I think is, fantastic. Mate, I've taken up an area of time. We've got a couple of questions that we're just going to kind of rapid fire at. Short answers are fine. If you've got long answers, even better. But I want to get a few simpler answers out that you'll have some advice on. What's probably the number one moment for you in your career with Merrick, in terms of whether you've reached a certain audience, connected with a certain podcaster, obviously jumping on here, and and like what's that champagne moment, if you will, where you're like, I can't believe we did this, or we had this person's life changed. We work with this, influencer, if you will, or like social figure that was like, holy shit.
Yeah, that was there's a lot of those. That's hard to lock in, but being in this space, it's in the medical space, so we're bound by a lot of restrictions. And so being on the VIP, part of the VIP team and working with these people, whether they're VIPs or affiliates, there's years that go by where, well, either nothing gets said or finally then they convert or they openly talk about it. And that's when it's like, oh, they said it, like I can talk about it now. They mentioned that they work with us, but I would say kind of circling back to the Jordan Peterson acknowledging us and working with us, that's been really cool. Fuad, like, I'm a big fan. I was been watching his stuff for a really long time, so just to develop that partnership, especially when I was early on at my career at Merrick,
Mhm.
just to kind of put my foot in the ground and just say like, hey, here are some of the people that I'm bringing over was a really good accomplishment. To see that on a personal level, that partnership has developed into more personal as well. And he's come out to California for 2 motorcycle trips now,
I've
which
seen
is
that.
yeah. So it's like dream, it's like boyhood dream come true. It's like how sweet is that? I'm riding bikes with like one of my favorite bodybuilders. So that's been good on the more personal side. But I would say in general, just having the oh, one last one is probably Craig Jones Invitational.
Mhm.
I'm new to jujitsu. I've been doing it for about 2 years. The more I do it, the more I realized how people are clearly on something.
Yeah.
It's a bit of TRT and a lot of skill that beats me for sure on the mat. But it was really cool to be a part of that, such an event, a first time event
Mhm.
in Las Vegas, and to be a part of people getting paid what they should be paid. And the winners, the 2 winners, got $1 million each when there was
That
competitors that
was
were given
huge.
$10,000. So it was really cool to just be a part of that and see the Marek Health logo on one of the
Yeah.
side walls, and just to have that come to fruition was probably one of my cooler experiences because it's also like an exciting newer sport that I'm
Yeah.
involved in. I still got those like beginner butterflies of excitement. I'm not a salty dog or anything in that space, so it's cool to bro out a little bit. But yeah, those, and yeah, just a laundry list of people that I've had the opportunity to work with. And I don't know, we talked mainly about bodybuilding here, but most, I would say most, but like we work with a lot of Gen Pop people.
Yes.
There's mom, dads, people that they've rarely, if ever, have lifted a weight in their life. They may not even know what like a macro is.
Mhm.
And so we get to first work with them. And so with that, a lot of our marketing could be outside of even like paid ads, but it could be general podcasts like the comment section with Brett Cooper, or maybe it's the Know Thyself podcast for like personal development, like just different partnerships that we have developed over the years that are outside of this space, but we get to help people in all different aspects of life. So that's just collaboratively really cool.
Yeah, I can see like, just I think like the Chris Williams demographic, the Jordan Peterson demographic, they're not these aggressive bodybuilder, I'm spending 2 hours a day in the gym kind of guys. Like to see a lot of the time they're just simply, what I find is they're in that self-development valley where they're trying to expose themselves to new thoughts and ideas. And they end up with people like, toxic masculinity, and these are the wrong people. But they're exposing themselves to thought. And part of that thought, when they see your advertisement or they see your engagement is, okay, well, how do I get myself healthier? Which to me is fantastic. Like to see that in those different populaces going beyond just us as bros, powerlifters, strongmen, NFL athletes, whatever, whoever you guys are working with at that athlete level, just to see the Gen Pop guy say, oh, I'm curious now what this is. I'm curious on what this perception is that I have or might be skewed that I want to correct. And, Chris mentioned this sponsor, or, these guys came on to talk. And so now we have this conversation around TRT, health optimization. So I think that's a huge path for you guys that it's not untapped, but it's different because we're expanding the pool and saying, showing people that showing more people that health is available to them beyond just going to your GP when you're sick.
Yeah. And as well, like we both know people, I'm sure, that we either train with or know in the gym that maybe they push themselves in the gym, but outside of the gym, they're not looking to develop themselves. It's just that's where it ends.
Yes.
And I know we're a lot alike in a lot of ways. And yeah, it's cool in the moment. Like it's cool to bro out in the gym and have our time, but it's not someone I want to hang out with because it's not my way of life. And so I think that that is kind of a good example of like you know, a Rogan or you know, Lex Friedman or Andrew Huberman, Chris Williamson, going back to him, you know, it's about personal development and growth,
Hmm.
and optimization is kind of just a tool on part of that journey of just becoming a better person and expanding your life.
If you had one piece of advice, or I guess health advice, especially to those men in that 35, 45 window where things are about, you know, it's not just let's get you on TRT to become a jack monster, but we know you're going through Andrew Paul's life is taking a dip because one of the big things I speak on here is a lot of mental health as well as physical health. Obviously, I study psychology. There's a huge correlative between the peak of andropause in men and what we deem as the midlife crisis. And so a big thing for me is how do I get more men, dads, young dads, you know, that 35, 45 bracket is to start having these conversations. What would be a single piece of advice you'd have to getting them into looking at improving health? Whether it be a certain blood marker to get assessed, whether it be, you know, finding a certain lifestyle change, what would be a single piece of advice you would have to try and just remove that idea that it's all about, you know, the midlife crisis is normal. I don't
Yeah.
believe I don't want that normal. I want that to be, you know, 45, you're thriving. We're getting better.
I think something, and this will feed into it, but it's maybe going to be a longer-winded answer. But I think being competitive is really necessary, or setting goals. So if I was, you know, I'm 30, almost 38. If I was in my age and I had not been competing in powerlifting for the past 10, 12 years, I would say signing up for a powerlifting meet, signing up, you know, in Thanksgiving time, we do like these 5K trot runs, and
Turkey trots, I've seen those. Yeah.
cricket trots. Yeah, I mean, there's stuff everywhere, always, all the time, like of
Mm-hmm.
something. I would say pick something in your life that's physically demanding, that's gonna push you, whether it's a 5K, something, just anything, and sign up for it, commit to it, and then that will, I think, impose some sort of pressure to get labs done, to talk to someone if they need, you know, psychological support or just counseling, to make some take some steps into bettering themselves. And so I think that would be a really simple thing to do that I think would probably help kickstart. I know it would help me kickstart, because I haven't competed for about a year, and I get the itch for it because I'm like, well, what am I
Yeah.
doing next? And then you do compete, and you're like, well, what's the next meet? Like, what am I
Yep.
doing next? And then, so I think that's really important. I think we need to really explore that self, because, and they don't always go well. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
but you did it. You put your effort in, you gave it your all, and you did it. And I think that would be the first thing I'd recommend for sure.
Man, I love it. The last question I have, what is the big goal, I guess, either for yourself or for American in 2025? Is there I don't want to say a new demographic, but there's a population that you guys are looking to reach to help more that just simply saying it here might get that person or something like that. But what is the next big goal? Because, you know, Marek just seems to tick their goals. Every time I
Yeah.
see there's a new person, it's always someone bigger and crazier and it's insane. So what is that, I guess, next goal in reaching people's health or improving a population? What's the next goal for Marek?
Yeah, Marek Health is, we offer definitely a step above, like a cut above the rest on a lot of the services, based on what we can see and experience. And I think we can take it a step further. And we have things in place now with some even more in-depth testing, more in-depth analysis, faster, you know, pharmacy shipping, more treatment options that are navigating through all the regulation changes, you know, month over month, year over year. And we're a step ahead of everybody. And so what I can say is I'm looking forward to, from a company as a whole, is to just providing a more improved, better service to those that want to optimize their health, because we do a lot. We do a lot that a lot of other places don't do, and we're really proud of that. We're really
Mm-hmm.
proud that we are able to help our clients in the way we do, we are able to. currently, but every year we're able to offer new testing that can take a deeper dive and provide even more value and help people and allow people to feel better. On the marketing side, I am very eager into reaching more people. We have like scratched the surface with the amount of people we've touched. It's a huge number, but it really is not, it's not everyone, right? And that's always the goal, is like, well, there's 350 million people in the United States, like
Yeah.
how many people can we get and help? Because it really is building the community. And I genuinely believe in, a quote from Mark Bell was to make the world a better place to lift. That
Mhm.
was a quote he had, and I just thought it was great. And I think that my goal is to make, to make the world better in general. And I think part of that journey is going to be for individuals taking control of their health and just optimizing it and feeling their best. So I think when people are feeling their best, they're going to make better decisions. They're going to make
Yes.
better decisions for themselves, for their family, for their country, for their employer, for their business, whatever it may be. And I think that that's how we'll move forward together as a group. And I think that's the right move.
That's fantastic. And yeah, I definitely couldn't agree more. To wrap things up, how does everyone find Marek? How do people find you? How do they stay in touch or in contact, or to continue to view with Marek? Give us all the channels, all the pages stuff, and we'll link it all in the description and make sure that people are aware of where things are.
Yeah, well, I thank you so much for letting me join you today, and it's
And
always a
thanks for
pleasure
coming.
speaking with you. So I appreciate the opportunity. I look forward to seeing you again in 2025. But yeah, people can take a look at marekhealth.com. That's Marek health.com. Also, Marek Health on Instagram. You'll see a ton of really cool content. You're going to see all the partners we have. We really like to lean into our affiliates and partnerships to create content for you guys, so you have, a variety of different standpoints and viewpoints on various topics in optimization and health. And then personally, I'm on Instagram at Steven Granzella underscore. And yeah, feel free to drop me a DM, say hello, and anything I can do to help, feel free to message me, and I'd be happy to set you up directly with someone at Merrick.
Man, thank you very much for your time, brother. I appreciate having you on. I look forward to us catching up again next year, hopefully for another training session at the shop.
Yep, yep, that was fun.
That was good fun. All right, bro.
Yep.
Take care. Appreciate it.
All right, take care.
Now, how do I?